began contemplating their own existence and the surrounding environment. They developed curiosity and started exploring the universe. Different civilizations and eras have provided their own distinct explanations. In ancient times, people commonly believed the universe had a binary structure of heaven and earth. The sky was viewed as a round dome while the earth was a flat plane. Between them existed supporting pillars or mountain peaks holding up the sky. Later, thanks to scientific and technological progress and increasingly extensive exploration, we gathered more clues and evidence about the universe. Many discoveries suggest the universe could be a three-dimensional space, projected from a two-dimensional image, similar to the holographic principle. As known in optics, there's a method to record three-dimensional objects using two-dimensional interference images called holograms. This technique is called the holographic method or holography. This is a special photography method invented in 1948 by physicist Denis Gabor. This achievement earned him the Nobel Prize in 1971. A hologram is originally a flat two-dimensional image, but when observed under appropriate lighting conditions, it creates a complete three-dimensional volumetric image. All information describing the three-dimensional object is encoded on this two-dimensional surface, meaning the two-dimensional and three-dimensional realities are informationally equivalent. Another important characteristic of holograms is that with just a portion of it, people can still restore the complete three-dimensional image. It can be simply understood as a distant two-dimensional surface containing all the data describing our world. And this data is projected into three-dimensional space, like characters on a TV screen. They exist on a flat plane but create a sense of depth. It may sound absurd, but physicists believe this is true. Then major problems like the nature of black holes and the reconciliation between gravity and quantum mechanics would be easier to solve. In summary, physical laws seem to make more sense when expressed in two dimensions rather than three. Leonard Susskind, a physicist at Stanford University, who first formally proposed this idea decades ago, said, "The holographic principle is no longer considered speculative fantasy in theoretical physics. It has become an everyday tool for solving physics problems." The idea of the universe as a three-dimensional image originated from paradoxes related to black holes. In 1974, renowned physicist Stephen Hawking discovered that contrary to previous beliefs, black holes actually emit small amounts of radiation over time. Eventually, when this energy escapes the event horizon, the outer edge of the black hole completely disappears. However, this leads to the black hole information paradox. People originally believed that physical information cannot be destroyed. Every particle either remains in its original state, or if they change, that change will affect other particles. Therefore, the initial state of particles can be deduced at the final moment. Similarly, imagine a stack of documents being put through a paper shredder. Even though cut into small pieces, the information on the paper still exists. It has been shredded, but not disappeared, and with enough time, the paper pieces can be reassembled to restore their original content. Essentially, the same is believed to be true for particles. But there's a problem. If a black hole disappears, the information contained in any object sucked into it seems to disappear as well. A solution proposed by Saxe and Dutch physicist Gerard T. Hooft in the mid-90s is that when an object is pulled into a black hole, it leaves behind a two-dimensional encoded trace on the event horizon. Then, when radiation escapes from the black hole, it carries the imprint of this data. In this way, information isn't actually destroyed, and their calculations show that only on the 2D surface of a black hole, you can store enough information to fully describe any 3D object inside it. Saxe says, the analogy we both thought of is a three-dimensional image. A two-dimensional film can encode all the information in a three-dimensional space. A related issue is calculating the amount of entropy in a black hole. That is, the level of chaos and randomness among its particles. In the 70s, Jacob Bekenstein calculated that the entropy of a black hole is finite. And this limit is proportional to the 2D area of the black hole's event horizon. Juan Maldacena, an Argentine physicist involved in holographic principle research, said, "For ordinary material systems, entropy is proportional to volume, not area." Ultimately, he and others also saw that this suggests the idea that what looks like a 3D object, such as a black hole, can be best understood in only 2 dimensions. Although there's no evidence that black holes are 3-dimensional images. But from the start, Saxke says, physicists realized that viewing the entire universe as a 2D object could help solve some deeper problems in theoretical physics. And the math works well whether you're talking about black holes, planets, or the entire universe. In 1998, Maldacena demonstrated that a hypothetical universe could be a 3-dimensional image. His universe exists in a space called anti-de Sitter space, which is curved, in contrast to our universe, which is believed to be flat. Moreover, by observing this universe in 2 dimensions, he found a way to develop the increasingly popular idea of string theory, a broad framework in which the fundamental constituents of the universe are 1-dimensional strings, not particles. And more importantly, by doing so, he unified 2 extremely important concepts that differ in particle physics under a single theory. Maldacena says, the holographic principle connects gravity theory with particle physics theories, combining these 2 fundamental theories into one unified theory, often called quantum gravity, remains one of the biggest challenges in physics. So, the holographic principle allowing this to exist in a hypothetical universe is a major achievement. Of course, all this is still completely different from saying that our actual universe, not this strange hypothetical one, is a 3-dimensional image. But whether our universe is truly a 3-dimensional image, or the idea only applies to hypothetical universes, that remains a hotly debated issue. But there are some recent theoretical works suggesting the holographic principle might also work for our universe, including a famous paper by Austrian and Indian physicists. Like Maldacena, they also seek to use the holographic principle to find similarities between different areas of quantum physics and gravity theory. In our universe, these 2 theories often don't align with each other. They predict various outcomes related to the behavior of a certain particle. But in the new paper, physicists calculated how these theories would predict the degree of quantum entanglement, the strange quantum phenomenon in which the states of 2 tiny particles can become correlated, so that a change to one particle can affect the other, even when they are very far apart. They discovered that, by viewing a specific model of a flat universe as a 3-dimensional image, they could actually make the results of both theories match. However, although this is somewhat closer to our universe than the one Maldacena assumed, it is only a specific type of flat space and their calculations do not account for time, only the 3 different spatial dimensions. Moreover, even if this applied directly to our universe, it would only show that it could be a 3-dimensional image. It is not strong evidence. The best kind of proof would start with some testable predictions from holographic theory. Then, experimental physicists could gather evidence to see if it matches the predictions. For example, the Big Bang theory predicts that we could find some form of residual energy emitted throughout the universe as a result of the inflationary phase 13.8 billion years ago. And in the 1960s, astronomers found exactly that in the cosmic microwave background. Currently, there is no widely accepted test that provides solid evidence for this idea. However, some physicists believe that the holographic principle predicts limits on how much information spacetime can contain, because our seemingly 3D spacetime is encoded by limited 2D information. Fermilab researcher Gray Hogan and others are using a tool called the holometer to search for evidence of a holographic universe. This device relies on powerful lasers to examine whether the light is high or low. Under a microscope, there is a fundamental limit to the amount of information in space-time itself. If so, they say it could be evidence that we are living in a three-dimensional image. Some other scientists actually believe that the universe we live in is not a three-dimensional image projected from a two-dimensional one, but possibly a simulation. Certainly, if you have ever watched the movie The Matrix, you have wondered whether the world we live in is like the simulated world in the film. Although it is just a scenario presented in a movie, many scientists study this issue very seriously and propose various hypotheses. Previously, many philosophers have put forward concepts suggesting that the reality we live in is just an illusion. In 2003, philosopher Nick Bostrom from Oxford University proposed a version more intriguing than the illusion idea. What if the reality we are living in is a world created by a computer from another reality? At first, many thought this idea was crazy, but Bostrom's argument was extremely compelling. First, assume that in the not-too-distant future, technology and science are advanced enough for humans to create a simulation of the entire universe. In that simulated universe, there would be copies of every person in the world. If humans have the capability to create simulated worlds, we would certainly do so without hesitation. Moreover, humans would create many simulations to understand how the universe operates and for various other purposes. Next, humans would replicate everything, including thoughts and consciousness, and transfer them to the inhabitants of the simulated world. But without letting those virtual inhabitants know they're in a fabricated world. Thus, if we can develop this simulation technology, the possibility that we ourselves are living in a simulation created by another species is entirely plausible. We cannot know whether some intelligent species has developed such technology, and we also cannot know if they are experimenting on humanity. Everything we observe and control in this world exists only within the limits of the simulation program, and the reality we live in is entirely made of lines of code, zeros and ones. Moreover, it is possible that the world we live in is just a simulation within a simulated world, with our technology just sufficient to create smaller simulated worlds inside. This hypothesis creates a chain of simulated worlds. Each universe contains another universe within it. However, Bostrom says that his hypothesis does not assert that we are living in a simulated world. The truth could be a much darker and more brutal picture. It is possible that humans never reach the level of creating an entire vast universe inside, due to technological limitations or humanity going extinct before we can do so. Three scientists, Silas Burney, Zorak Devotee, and Martin Savage, are interested in the concept of universe simulation and began thinking of ways to determine whether our world is a simulation. All their reasoning starts with the lattice method of lattice gauge theory, also known as lattice gauge theory, and quantum chromodynamics, or QCD for short. In the universe we live in, there are four fundamental forces: the strong interaction, electromagnetic force, weak interaction, and gravitational force. The two methods mentioned above focus on studying the strong interaction. This is the force that holds subatomic particles together. It is the strongest of the four fundamental forces but also has the shortest range. Quantum chromodynamics is a theory explaining the fundamental nature of strong interactions in four-dimensional space-time. Scientists use high-performance computers to simulate an extremely small universe, smaller than even 1 nanometer. After simulating that flat universe, scientists continue using the lattice method of gauge theory to study the continuity of space-time within it. If somehow we could shrink and slip into the simulated universe, we could observe energy quanta originating from inside. And if these energy quanta resemble those appearing in our living universe, it could be concluded that we are sitting in a simulated world. However, this hypothesis requires many conditions and must solve problems to become reality. For example, One of the entities designing the simulation program used QCD methods like we simulate a super small universe. The entities designing the universe are similar to us, limited by simulation resources, so we would also be constrained. Do the entities creating this universe prevent us from discovering the truth that everything is just a simulation? Nevertheless, a hypothesis or argument cannot determine its own correctness by itself. Science and scientific methods are all based on concrete evidence. Without concrete evidence, that argument or hypothesis is considered baseless and unscientific. And imagine, if one day we discover that we are living in a virtual world, what would happen? Would the creator of us truly be satisfied with the intelligence of their children, or press a button to shut down the simulation program? Then the entire society would have to live in doubt and division. And the psychology of each individual would undergo many unpredictable changes. And can we change ourselves just by modifying the code?